Okay, so it's been in the news. We've all heard the story now. This is all kind of basically old news at this point. And I was thinking about whether or not I should make a video relating to this issue. And I have seen, so I'm talking, of course, about the shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota, of Renee Good. And I've been on social media, I've been arguing with a lot of people, and these people may or may not be trolling, I don't know. But a lot of the comments are disturbing. And I don't know why this has to be an issue of such political polarization. I don't know why one side has to focus on all of the arguments in defense of Renee Good, and then the other side has to focus on all of the arguments in defense of Jonathan Ross, the name of the shooter. People that live in the UK will understand that. It's funny, kind of, they turned out to be called Jonathan Ross, but let's move past that. I don't know why people can't just look at it objectively and recognize that there are arguments for, like, on both sides that can be made. So ultimately, my position is that there's blame on both sides. What I think is incredibly worrying, though, is the President of the United States just full on lying and saying that she was run over when she clearly wasn't. However, it still remains unclear as to whether or not the car actually hit her. I can't call that one. And the video released by the shooter doesn't really help, because at the point the car did or did not hit him, the camera moves up to the air and moves up to the sky, and you can't see whether or not it hits him. And people say, well, this proves it hits him. No, it doesn't. I'm sick of the gaslighting, but ultimately, she didn't have to behave in that way, but she's obviously stand up for what she believes in. And there's something that people seem to be too afraid to mention due to fears of homophobia, which is strange, because a lot of people are saying she should have been shot in the face, but people are afraid to comment upon the fact that she's a lesbian. Like, that's too far. And I think it's relevant, because I know what a lot of lesbians are like. Don't get me wrong, I completely condemn her being shot in the face. I think the ICE officer completely overreacted, but lesbians often hate men. Her wife made a comment saying, "You want to come at me? Go get yourself some lunch, big boy." And I feel like that was an antagonization. The way people antagonize now is to leave everything purposefully vague, so that afterwards you can say, oh, I didn't mean it like that. But it's almost like she was saying, come on, big boy, come have a taste. That's how I interpreted that. And yeah, they were being antagonistic, but look at the situation. The officers didn't even try to defuse the situation. One officer just gets straight out of his vehicle and he's like, get the fuck out of the vehicle. Goes straight up to her car door, tries to open the car door. At that point, Renee Good's probably thinking, here are my options. I either stay in the vehicle and get dragged out, or I can drive off. So she opts for driving off, and it looks like she does it in a hurry. She doesn't even look around her car that much. At the point Jonathan Ross is walking in front of her vehicle, she is actually looking over her shoulder, reversing. So at the point she's decided to drive off, the guy wasn't in front of her vehicle. After she turns around, like, she's got a very small amount of time before they drag her out of the car, and she's trying to get away. The guy, she has like a split second to decide whether she's going to do an emergency stop or keep going. She'd already seemed to decide, she seems to have decided she was driving off before the guy was even in front of the car. And yeah, she probably saw that the guy was moving out of the way, and the way that cars turn, you can tell that she was trying to turn because the wheels were directed to the right. And the way that cars turn, they can't turn on the spot. They have to move forward in order to move to the side. So the car was moving forwards. And that ICE officer might have, in the moment, truly believed that she was trying to kill him. So I'm not saying it's impossible that he thought that she was trying to run him over, but she wasn't trying to run him over. I don't think she was, at least. It seems highly unlikely, because if you're trying to run someone over, why would you not drive straight on? And that's another thing. Look at where the car ends up after she's been shot. If she was trying to run him over, she would have gone straight forward, and the car would have ended up crashing in the space immediately behind where he was when he was in front of the car. But it doesn't. It ends up crashing way to the right. If she was trying to run him over, how come after she gets shot in the face, the car goes in a completely different direction? That doesn't make any sense. It's just dumb. So there's arguments that can be made on both sides. It's just, these two people are clearly lesbians, right? And you think the best way to diffuse the situation is to go up to these lesbians. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them hate men. And you think the best way to convince them to get out of the car is to go up to them with guns and try to forcibly remove them from the car. They should have approached the vehicle and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but you're blocking the road. I need you to move your vehicle." Then progressed to "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the vehicle." And then progressed to, "Ma'am, if you don't get out of the vehicle, I'm going to have to forcibly remove you from the vehicle." There was none of that. And the reason there was none of that was because they had the mentality of, this is not me asking you. You're going to do as I fucking say. And you're not going to get a lesbian to do what you say if you're talking to me like that. There's no fucking chance. It's very possible that if they'd gone through the motions and asked her politely a few times to move the vehicle, then to leave the vehicle, then warned her that she was going to drive out of the vehicle, very possible she still would have behaved in the same way. But they never even tried that. So now we don't know. But ultimately, it's very sad. And if you're on social media talking to these people, whatever side you're on, just try to acknowledge that there are arguments to be made for and against. And the way I see it is the woman behaved like a moron, but the ICE officer completely overreacted. And that's the thing, like, she was recklessly driving. That's the point I forgot to make. Her wife was trying to get back in the car. And she was even taken by surprise, I think. So she's able to get back into the car. And then her wife's reversing. Renee's reversing. So she goes, "Oh, drive, Tracy. Drive." Was it Tracy? That's an interesting one. I don't know if her name was Renee or Tracy. I'm getting mixed information. But she obviously wasn't even looking around her vehicle that much. Like, what if she'd accidentally hit her wife with the car? I mean, if she's at the side of the car, I guess it's less likely, but... And another thing as well is that the dog was in the car. And she's kind of endangering the life of the dog. And then again, so is the ICE officer, firing bullets into the car when the dog's in the car. Like, you could have hit the dog. I don't know if the dog's okay. I'm assuming the dog's okay. But, the whole situation is a mess. And I think it really needs to change. I think, like I say, if you're on social media, just try to acknowledge that there's blame on both sides. And try to just avoid calling the other side stupid and just dismissing them, and try to not be taken in by all of these trolls online. But that's what I have to say on the subject.